Just click again. Wait, does not like to move. The correct answer for number 6 is carrots. So it's for taproot system. Or it's really having a problem on my end. Maybe it is too much slides. For number 6, it is carrots. For number 7, which part of the root is responsible for the production of new cells? Is it A, meristem, B, cortex, C, epidermis? You can start answering again. Okay, letter A, C. The correct answer in number 7 is the letter A. That is the meristem. It's really the problem here. We have, I think I will have to stop the full screen. For number 7, that is the meristem. For number 8, which of the following structure is not part of the root system? Is it A, lateral roots, B, leaf blades, C, root hairs? You can chat your answers. Any guess so far? B. Okay, mostly B. Letter B, indeed, it is leaf blades because the lateral roots and the root hairs are part of the root system. For number 9, which type of root is commonly found in mangroves, helping with stability and oxygen uptake? Is it A, fibrous roots, B, prop roots, C, tap roots? What is your answer? Any guess? For the mangroves, the correct answer here is prop roots. So they are the one helping in the mechanical stability of the roots. Prop roots, or it's part of the adventitious roots. Lastly, in which part of the root would you find the greatest concentration of root hairs? Is it A, root cup, B, maturation zone, C, elongation zone? You can chat your answer. Okay, C is a guess from Anthony. Okay, the correct answer for number 10 is elongation zone indeed. So that is just some pre-test on root morphology before I proceed to the main discussion. But can you see the screen since putting it in full screen has becoming an error on my end? Is it okay? Can you see the screen? Participants? You can chat if it's really, you can see the screen. Well, hopefully. So we now proceed with the learning objectives for this discussion. Thank you for your participation in the pre-test. It shows that indeed your faculty members and the students are have prior background on root morphology. So our learning objectives for today is first to describe the basic anatomy of roots, to identify different roots types and their function, to understand the modification of roots, and to recognize the ecological and agricultural significance of roots. So total, we have these subtopics. So first lesson will be Introduction to Root Morphology. The next one is Basic Anatomy of Roots, followed by the types of roots, root modification, the ecological importance of roots, and the agricultural significance of roots. If you have questions, you can reserve or take down notes, and then later on the question in open forum, you can raise it up. Okay, so to start with the lesson 1, which is the introduction to root morphology. Root morphology refers to the study of the form and structure of plant roots, wherein the main function of roots is anchoring plants, absorbing water and nutrients, and storing energy. 2A and 1S. So anchoring, absorbing, and storing. So recall in the pretest that the main function of the root is, of course, its absorption of water and nutrients. Understanding root morphology is essential for applications in agriculture, in forestry, and environmental science. For the definition of the root, so we all know the definition of the root as it is an underground part of the plant. It is primarily responsible for other function is fixation and absorption of water. The root with its branches is known as the root system. So sometimes other references note that the root is the hidden half of the plant, and the other part of the plant is the shoot system. So hidden half, you cannot see it mostly, except those adventitious or those roots that came from branches, from stems, and from leaves. And another one, it's termed as the lifeline of the plant. Why is it termed as the lifeline of the plant? Because it's the one absorbing the nutrients, the water within the soil, and giving it to the part of the plant for reproduction, growth, and development. Some of the characteristics of the root. The root is the descending portion of the plant axis. It is positively geotrophic. When we say positively geotrophic, it's going through the gravity or it's gravitrophism. For the shoot, it's negative geotrophic because it's going against the gravity. It is usually non-green or brown in color. The root is not further differentiated into nodes and internodes, unlike the leaves. As per the rule, the root does not bear leaves and tree buds, and usually root cap protects the root tip. So take a look at on the basic anatomy of the roots later on. The root bears unicellular root hairs. So what is the function of these root hairs? We'll discuss it later on. Lateral roots arise from the root, which are endogenous in origin. They arises from the pericycle. For the main function of the root, to re-emphasize it again, its main function is for the absorption of water and minerals from the soil. The second function is to provide the proper anchorage to the plant parts. And lastly, to store reserve food materials. So 2A, absorption, anchorage, and 1S, which is storage. Some references include the synthesis of plant hormones, but generally these are the three main functions of the root system for absorption, anchorage, and storage of food materials. Okay, so do you know how the root develops from a seed? It starts from the radicle. This one is the radicle, which give rise to primary root. And the primary root gives rise to the lateral root or the secondary root. And the secondary gives rise to tertiary and so forth. So this is an example of a taproot system. But some types of roots, which was mentioned in your pretest, does not generally develop from the radicle or the root part, but it develops from the branches, the stems, and the leaves. So we will discuss that is the adventitious roots later on the types of roots. Okay, so that is for the introduction to root morphology as lesson 1. For the basic anatomy of roots, for lesson 2, we'll be discussing here the root structure and the tissue types. For the root structure, we have different root structure, the root cup, meristematic zone, elongation zone, and the maturation zone. For the root cup, it protects the root tip as it pushes through the soil. So let's take a look at the illustration here. So this one is the root cup at the tipmost part of the root, and then followed by the apical meristem. So the root cup and the apical meristem is part of the area of salvation division. And the next one is the area of elongation. And this one at the top is the area of maturation, wherein we have the vascular cylinder, the root hairs. Going back here, so the root cap contains cells that secrete mucilage to ease soil penetration. When you say mucilage, it is a polysaccharide substance which is extracted as viscous or gelatinous solution from the plant roots. So for easier soil penetration within the soil horizon or the soil profile. For the meristematic zone, the area of active salivation and growth where new root cells are generated. So it was shown a while ago in here. So the apical meristem. For the elongation zone, it is a region where cells increase in size, allowing the root to grow deeper. And the maturation zone, where cells differentiate into specific types like the xylem, which is responsible for the transport of water and minerals, and the phloem, which is responsible for transporting dissolved sugars and organic compounds. So that is the root structure. So we have another illustration here on the right side. So we have mucigel sheet showing how is the mucilage being discharged by the root for easier root penetration. And then the specific tissues, so the epidermis, the endodermis, the cortex, and of course the xylem and phloem, which is sometimes they are part of, it's within the stele or stele. Okay, so moving on for the tissue types, we have epidermis, cortex, endodermis, and pericycle, as well as the vascular tissue. For the epidermis, it is the outer layer, often covered by a waxy cuticle to reduce water loss. So these cells are responsible for the absorbing water and minerals dissolved in water through the root hairs. So this is the function of the root hair. It is delicate elongated epidermal cells that occur in small zone just behind the root growing tips. So its main function is to increase the root surface area and absorptive capacity. So by the way, some references mention that root hairs survive around 1 to 2 days, depending on the type of the root. For the cortex, it's composed of parenchyma cells, serves in storage and transport of nutrients. And then the dermis, the innermost layer of the cortex, regulates the flow of water and nutrients into the vascular system via the Casparian strip. When we say the Casparian strip, it is a hydrophobic structure that prevents the apoplastic movement of water and solute across the root. For the pericycle, it is a layer from which lateral roots originate. Its role is in secondary growth. For the vascular tissues, the xylem, it was mentioned a while ago, which function is for water and minerals transportation. For phloem, it's distribution of sugars. So those are the tissue types and their structure as the basic anatomy of roots. So we have here an illustration showing the different tissue types, the phloem, the vascular cambium, then the dermis on this part, the root hair, the cortex, and the pericycle, the epidermis, and of course the xylem. Okay, so that is for the basic anatomy of roots. Again, some reminders. If you have question, you can take note, and then later on, we will have an open forum. Okay, for lesson 3, so after the introduction to root morphology, to the basic anatomy of roots, now we have lesson 3, which is the type of root. So we have 3 main types of roots. We have the tap roots, the fibrous roots, and the adventitious roots. So we will discuss it one by one. What is the differences of tap roots and fibrous roots? How about adventitious roots? And later on, what are the modifications of these roots and their specific function and contribution in growth and development of the plant? To start with, we have the taproot. It's characterized by the main root that grows deeper and thicker than the others. So example is a carrot, dandelion, mustard, sugar beets, and radish. Its main function includes storing energy like for carbohydrates and providing stability. Take note that these taproots are dominant in the dicot plants, and its primary root grows and becomes stout, while secondary and tertiary root grow from primary roots. It is a straight tapering root which grows vertically down and gives out branches in all sides. So the primary root, the secondary, and the tertiary root. The illustration a while back, if you recall. Taproot is the main root, and the smaller side roots are called as lateral roots or the secondary roots. For the fibrous roots, it's comprised of numerous thin roots that spread out near the soil surface. Example are grasses, wheat, and rice. They enhance soil structure and reduce erosion by binding the soil particles. So how will it enhance soil structure? Take note that these fibrous roots are uh, in terms of the density and widespread within the soil horizon, they can really enhance the soil structure. If it is blocky soil structure, it is plate-like, they can make it granular structure through their root system. In terms of reducing erosion, they have the capability to reduce erosion in the sense that of the fibers or it will hold the nutrients in the soil, of course. So it will be stabilized and then the erosion will not be prominent in this fibrous root system. So they bind the soil particles. Okay, so fibrous roots is prominent in monocot. If the taproot is prominent in dicot, fibrous is prominent in monocot. Root develops from lower nodes and they have the same length and diameter. Some plants have a bunch of similar roots called the fibrous roots, which are thin, fiber-like roots. They spread in the soil and give firm support to the plants. So we'll take a look at the illustration later on after discussing the different characteristics of these 3 types of roots. For the adventitious roots, it develops from non-root tissues. Take note, this was mentioned a while ago that there are roots that develop from non-root tissue, not from the radicle, but from branches, from stems, from leaves. These are often seen in climbing plants like the ivy and mangroves. So this is crop roots. These are roots that grow out of any structure of the plant, excluding the roots of the plant. So usually sprout from the stems of plants like sweet potato, what else? The bombax, and we'll see what are the other examples like the banyan tree, sugar cane, and monstera, oak, and mangroves, of course. These are roots that arise from any point other than the radical. So except other than the radical or the root axis of the plant. Its function include additional support and stability of ability to access moisture in the air. There are other functions which is also for respiration. For the specific example, we'll take a look at it later on in the modification of the roots. Okay, so these are in terms of illustration. This is the differences of the three main types of roots. This illustration on the left side is the taproot system. At the center is the fibrous root, and at the right side is the adventitious root system. So you take a look at it. Taproot system again are deep-rooted. For fibrous, shallow-rooted like grasses, wheat. And for adventitious, it has a taproot, but it has an adventitious roots here from the branches. This is a banyan tree, some of the adventitious root. And another one to illustrate, we have the carrot for the taproot, and this is a wheat for the fibrous roots, and some example of adventitious roots, the banyan tree, the sugar cane, and this illustration. Okay, so those are the types of roots, the taproot, the fibrous roots, and the adventitious roots. Moving forward to the modification of the root. Okay, so in terms of the modification of the root, we have to discuss it one by one in terms of the modifications of taproot, the modifications of the adventitious roots. So for the modification of taproot, we have first the storage of food for better respiration and nodulated roots. So in terms of the storage of food, we have this one, the fusiform tubers, napiform tubers, conical tubers, and tuberous roots. For radish, it is under the fusiform tubers. For turnip and beetroot, it is under for the napiform tubers. For carrot, it is conical, and the 4 o'clock plant is under the tuberous root. How is this one? By taking a look at the illustration and the picture here. For the fusiform tubers, it is a swollen root tapering at both ends. So this is Raphanus sativus or the radish. For the napiform tubers, it is globular and tapers abruptly at the base. That is brassicarapa or the turnip. Again, this is the modification of taproot for storage of food. And another one is the conical tubers, the Ocus carota. It is broad at the top and tapers towards the lower end like a comb. So the illustration of this carrot, it's the Ocus carota. For tuberous roots, it is thick and fleshy without a definite shape, like the 4 o'clock plant or Mirabilis chalapa. So there is no definite shape. So those are the storage of food, modification of taproots, fusiform, napiform, conical, and tuberous roots. For modification of taproot for better respiration, we have here in Avena SP. It is the respiratory roots or the pneumatophores, which are seen in mangroves. These pneumatophores have pores called the nematodes for gaseous exchange. If you observe despite the surrounding the mangroves, these are responsible for gaseous exchange. So they are the one interacting with the environment to absorb oxygen since the water is limited the oxygen in it. So that is the function of these nematodes or the respiratory roots termed as the pneumatophores. Another modification of taproot is the nodulated roots. So when we say nodulated roots, root nodules are seen in leguminous plants like the pea family. Symbiotic nitrogen fixing bacteria like the Rhizobium sp lives in these nodules. So the importance of these nodulated roots is the fixation of nitrogen. For example, the nitrogen per se, wherein it is unavailable. The N2, it is mostly of the nitrogen is in an unavailable form. So how it is being converted to available forms like the ammonia is through the role of this rhizobium sp or the symbiotic nitrogen fixing bacteria within the leguminous plants. So this is the beneficial or the importance of this uh, symbiotic relationship between the leguminous and the nitrogen fixing bacteria. For the modifications of adventitious roots, we have for storage still, like the tap roots, for additional support, and for performing special functions. So we'll take a look at the example of for storage, for additional support, and for performing special functions. For the storage of as modification of adventitious roots, we have tuberous roots, fasciculated roots, moniliform roots, and nodulous roots, and of course the annulated roots. So here are the tuberous roots. These are roots that arise from the nodes of prostate stem. And these roots become swollen, irregularly shaped tubers. And they, of course, occur in singly like the Ipomea batatas or the sweet potato. For the fasciculated roots, they occur in clusters at the base of the stem, like the asparagus racemosus. So this is under the asparagus. So that is for tuberous roots and fasciculated roots as the function is for storage under the adventitious roots. And then we have the moniliform roots. These roots are alternately swollen and constricted, giving a beaded appearance. So the example here is the bitter gourd or Momardica carantia. So that's for the moniliform. So beaded appearance. The roots is it's like beads. For nodulous roots, a slender root is swollen abruptly at the tip. Example is the Maranta leoconera or the ginger. So that's for the moniliform and the nodulous. For the annulated roots, they appear to be formed by numerous discs placed one above the other. So if you observe this one, Ipepac or Carapaceae, Ipepac 1, these roots are piled discs. So that's the annulated roots. Okay, so those are the modifications of adventitious roots for storage. The tuberous roots, the fasciculated roots, the moniliform roots, and the nodulous roots, and the annulated roots. Moving on, for the another modification of adventitious roots is for additional support. So this one, we have the prop roots, stilt roots, the climbing roots, the clinging roots, and the buttress roots. So each one, we will take a look at the example as we proceed. For the additional support like the prop roots, we have mentioned a while ago in the banyan tree. They grow vertically downwards from the aerial branches and they reach the soil and support the aerial branches. They are also termed as the pillar roots. I don't know if this type of tree is present in your country. So it's the prop roots, termed as the pillar roots for additional support of the plant. Second one, we have the stilt roots. They grow obliquely downwards from the basal nodes of the stem, like the maize or zea mays. So if you observe, this is the basal node, so it's still above the soil, the still root. For the climbing roots, they are aerial roots that helps plant with weak stems to climb on support like the money plant or Epifermum aerium. So these one are the climbing roots in money plant. For the clinging roots, they fix epiphytes on the bark of the supporting tree, like the orchids. When we say epiphytes, it's a plant or plant-like organism that grows on the surface of another plant and derives its moisture and nutrients from the air or the rain. So clinging roots is the orchid is one example. For the buttress roots, they are the tree roots that extend above ground, has a blade-like outgrowth of the trunk supporting the tree. So example is the Bombax silva or the Bombax perse. So these are the buttress roots. For the That's for the additional support as modification of adventitious roots. So take note, we have the prop roots, the stilt roots, the climbing roots, the clinging roots, and the buttress roots for the purpose of additional support for the plant. Moving on, for the modification of adventitious roots for performing spatial functions. So this one has a specific function in terms of the growth and development of the plant, like the assimilatory roots, the epiphytic roots, the parasitic roots, and the reproductive roots. For the assimilatory roots, they are chlorophyll-bearing green photosynthetic roots. So if you take a look at the Trapa SP, so these are the simulatory roots, mostly in aquatic condition. You observe the Trapa SP. For the epiphytic roots, recall a while ago, under the modification of for cleaning, that's the orchid. So it's epiphytic roots still with its special function. So they are moisture absorbing aerial roots. So this one, the epiphytic roots. The lemon tissue helps in moisture absorption from the air. So that's why sometimes the epiphytic root is termed as the Philemon root. It is observed in orchids. For the parasitic roots, these roots are called sucking roots or haustoria. They help the parasite to absorb water and food from the host plant. So taking a look at the picture, we have here the host plant. And surrounding it, there are parasitic roots of Dodder or Haustoria. Dodder is Cuscuta sp. So, who is talking at the end? Okay. Hello. Hello. Can I proceed? Okay. So as we were discussing a while ago, who is talking there? Sorry. So these parasitic roots sucks the host plant for moisture, nutrients, and worst case scenario, the host plant can die after the parasitic roots absorb its all nutrients. And lastly, we have the reproductive roots. They are adventitious roots that develop adventitious buds which grow into new plants. If you observe in a sweet potato, so these are the reproductive roots. Okay, so those are the modification of adventitious roots for performing special function. It's the assimilatory roots, epiphytic roots, parasitic roots, and the reproductive roots. By the way, sometimes there are also root adaptations. For example, is for environmental adaptations. Like roots can be deep rooted or shallow rooted. For deep-rooted, the top roots, or shallow-rooted is the fibrous roots depending on water availability. Aerial roots found in epiphytes, like this one, is responsible for exchange of gas and, of course, moisture absorption. That is under the environmental adaptations. For these desert and aquatic roots, there are desert plants like the cacti, which have adaptation like water storage tissues and deep root system to reach groundwater. So those are cacti, cactus. Aquatic plants on the other side, like water lilies, have specialized roots for anchorage in soft sediments and gas exchange. So those are just to mention some of the root adaptations in environmental condition and the desert and aquatic plants. So we are done with the root modification. So from the introduction of root morphology to the basic anatomy of roots, the types of roots, and the root modification, we are now going forward for the ecological importance of roots. For the ecological importance of roots, root contributes to soil health by preventing erosion, as it was mentioned a while back, so improving soil structure and enhancing nutrient cycling. When we say preventing soil erosion, mostly of the fibrous roots, they are the one who has main contribution to preventing soil erosion. So take note that when the soil is exposed to rain, exposed to extreme weather condition without the roots or the covering, erosion will be faster or enhanced. Improving the soil structure in the sense that the block-like or the plate-like structure of the soil will be granulated with the help of the soil, the root structure, like in the fibrous roots. And enhancing nutrient cycling. So in terms of the enhancement of the nutrient cycling, the role of the root is that the availability of nutrients in the soil depends on the rate of which root absorbs nutrients and the rate at which soil microorganisms decompose dead organisms and waste materials. Root determines the interface between the soil and the roots. So it enhances nutrient cycling. Another one, they form symbiotic relationship with the mycorrhizal fungi, increasing nutrient absorption and providing plants with better access to phosphorus. So the roots are the one, those relationship, like the symbiotic relationship mentioned in the leguminous and rhizobium SP enhances the absorption or the availability of the nutrients. Root systems make several vital contributions to ecosystem through their structure and functioning, influencing the environment and encouraging microbial growth and activities. So these microbial growth and activities are important for the help in degrading the nutrients and making the nutrients available for plant uptake. Okay, so moving on, still under the ecological importance of roots. Roots influence biogeochemistry through their involvement in carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus nutrient cycling. They are also significant contributors to the soil carbon sink. So when we say the carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus nutrient cycling that was mentioned a while back, they are responsible in the faster enhancement, the availability of these nutrients for absorption by the roots. They are also significant to soil carbon sink. So take a look at some researches later on to prove this one. Roots build soil structure, stability, and water holding capacity, and as well as promote the hydraulic uplift of water. They also help in soil formation through the bedrock weathering. So how does it contribute to the Soil structure enhancement, it was mentioned twice a while back. For the soil formation, the roots are penetrating within the soil horizon, creating pores for aeration, the exchange of air and the entry and exit of air and water within the soil horizon will be enhanced. And of course, it will aid in soil formation as one of the factors that contribute or enhances the development of the soil. By the way, for the carbon sink, accordingly, root comprises 20 to 25% of plant biomass, but contributes 75% of carbon from the plants to the soil through the form of the biomass or the root exudates. Around 30 to 50% of the carbon contribution is from the exudates that contains organic acids, amino acids, mucilage, and other soluble compounds. So that is for the contribution of roots in a soil carbon sink. Okay, so another one, we have here crop release many substances, including biologically active compounds, so as the root exudates that was mentioned. And this could change the nutrient cycle in soils through the microbial activity. It will enhance the availability of the nutrients. For example, the Brachyra humidicola and sorghum release the biological nitrogen nitrification inhibitor that inhibits ammonium conversion to nitrate, which is a process in the soil nitrogen cycle. So that is some of the functions of the roots in terms of the ecological importance. There's another one here, which is root turnover. As the replacement of a particular standing stock caused by the growth and death of roots maintains the resource acquisition for a longer period of time. In root turnover, organic matter from the death of roots is released into the soil. Take note that organic matter is an important uh, what do you call this one? Important source of nutrients for the plant. In addition, roots remain in the soil after annual crops are harvested. This adds to the soil carbon cycle and could contribute to carbon sequestration, thus mitigating global warming. So, indeed, the root biomass, the root exudates, has function in carbon sequestration through the root turnover. Okay, so that is for the ecological importance of roots, for uh, nutrient cycling as carbon sink, carbon sequestration, for the improvement of the soil physical structure, the physical properties of the soil formation, still for the nutrient cycling in the soil, and carbon sequestration, as well as uh, what do you call this one? The production of root exudates. Okay, so in terms of the agricultural significance, understanding root morphology helps in selecting crops which has efficient root system that enhances the yield. Root management techniques such as crop rotation and intercropping can optimize soil health and productivity. So if you know how to manage the which crop to plant, through crop rotation, intercropping or other root form management techniques, it can at least optimize your soil health and productivity. Take note that the main source of the nutrients that the roots will absorb is in the soil. Research is ongoing into genetically modifying roots to improve stress resistant and nutrient uptake. So let's take a look at the researches later on that was conducted on improving the stress resistant and how it uh, uptake nutrients within the soil. Okay, so that's for the significance. For the researches, this is to show you that there are researches that was conducted on the roots, like root hydraulic phenotypes impacting water uptake in drying soils. We have the another one here is soil carbon sequestration by root exudates. And the rhizobium, rhizogenes mediated root proliferation in cadmium zinc hyperaccumulator Zidum alfredi and its effect on plant growth promotion, root exudates, and metal uptakes. So there are still many more researches on how the roots are being improved or enhanced in order to anchor, or in order to live or to tolerate those stress condition, drought conditions brought by climate change or the global warming. For summary, just to have a brief summary. So we're actually done with the discussion. So just to summarize what we have been discussing and to review of the discussion. So we have here the roots, the definition of the roots as the lower portion of the plant, and function is absorption of nutrients, moisture, to anchor the plants in the soil and store food. For the root structure, it pertains to the root cap, meristematic zone, elongation zone, and maturation zone, while the root tissue types refers to the epidermis, cortex, pericycle, and vascular tissues. There are also the three major types of roots: the taproot, fibrous roots, and the adventitious roots. For its distinction, taproots refers to the single large central root that grows vertically with smaller branching out from it. These are dominant in dicot, such as carrots, radish, and dandelions. They can penetrate deeper into the soil than the fibrous roots. For the fibrous roots, it refers to the clump of roots that are similar in size and grow from a single point. They are common in monocotyledons such as rice, wheat, and grasses. For the adventitious roots, it grows from any part of the plant except the roots, such as branches, stems, and leaves. And examples are banyan trees, sugar canes, orchid, and mangroves. For the root modification, for taproots are for storage of food like the radish, turnip, carrot, and crotla plant. For better respiration, like the mangroves. For the use of the for mangroves, and for nodulation, like the leguminous plants with symbiotic nitrogen-fixing bacteria. For the modification of adventitious roots can be for storage, like the sweet potato, dahlia, bitter gourd, ginger, and ipepak. For additional support function, it's for banyan trees, sugarcane, money plant, orchid, and the bambax. And for performing other special function, we have the trapa SP, dowder, and sweet potato. So we have mentioned this one a while ago, the adaptation of roots to changing environment for deep-rooted and shallow-rooted depends on water availability and the aerial exchange within the aerial roots for gaseous exchange and nutrient absorption. Desert and aquatic conditions, cacti have adaptation like water storage until the groundwater, while the aquatic plants like the water lilies have specialized roots for anchoring in soft sediments and gas exchange. Roots also have ecological and agricultural importance, such as prevention of soil erosion, improvement of soil structure, enhanced yield with efficient root system, enhancing nutrient cycling, encouraging microbial growth, and contribute to carbon sequestration. So that's all for my discussion with the references. And we can proceed with the post test before the question and answer portion. So I request the participants again to please participate with the post test. You can chat your answers in the chat box. Okay. So for this one, label the missing part of the structure of the roots. For A, B, C, and D. You can participate now through the chat box. Okay, did you respond? Where is your response, please? Kindly please participate in the chat box or the students be alive. Any answers from this one for labeling the structure of the roots? Oh, are you taking a break? Okay, just to show you then. So the part of the structure of the root for this one is okay. So A is for the area of maturation. Letter B is for the area of elongation. C is the root hair. D is the root cup. Moving on, how about this one? Identify which is a taproot system, fibrous root system, and adventitious root system. A, B, C, kindly label this one. Okay, participants, are you with me? Okay, so they may be taking a break. So just to show you this one, that is the letter A is the taproot system, letter B is the fibrous, C is the adventitious root system. How about this one? The plants below are example of modification of taproot or storage of food. True or false? Oh, this is easier to answer? Is this right true or is it false? Those pictures like the radish, carrot, and turnip are the examples of the modification of taproot. Oh, somebody answers true. Okay, let's take a look at that one. So indeed, the answer is true. So they are modification of taproot for storage of food, the radish, carrot, and turnip. How about this one? The plants below are examples of modification of adventitious roots for storage of food. Is it true or false? You can chat your answer in the chat box. For number 4, are these examples of modification of adventitious roots for storage of food, like the bitter gourd, sweet potato, or the maranta, leuconera, or the ginger? Okay, true accordingly. Indeed, that is true. So these are the modifications of adventitious roots for storage of food. The bitter gourd, sweet potato, and the ginger. Okay, lastly, this is the last question. Orchid is parasitic root. Is it true or false? Okay, answer true. Any more? There is no truth, only true or false. Okay, accordingly, any more answers? True, false. Okay, so the correct answer is false. Why? Climbing or epiphytic roots. The orchids is not the parasitic root, but it is either the climbing or epiphytic roots. Okay, thank you for participating in this post test. Now, I'm ready for your questions, clarification in the discussion, if you have any. We will facilitate, please. Can I now stop sharing? Where's that one? Wait first. Hi. How to do the stop sharing? Okay, do you have any clarification questions? Participants or the students? Do we have questions?
Okay. Thank you, Ma'am Benilyn. Clap, clap, clap. I was trying to send here some react here. Yes. Okay. Like that. Because it's virtual. So even the responses can also be entertained virtually. Thank you, Ma'am Benilyn, our resource person from Benguet State University, Bugues campus, for that lecture. Yes, let us entertain a few questions from the students. Maybe you can have it in Bahasa. I believe Ma'am Shiana is here with us to translate that in English. Yes, so you can either drop your questions in the chat box or maybe you can open your mic so that you can ask your questions directly. Ma'am Shiana is with us to do the translation.
All right,
And
ma'am.
yes, even if Ma'am Shana is, I believe Ma'am Shana is on leave. She's she still make it to the virtual meeting. Now, may I also remind everybody here to please fill out the attendance. There's the Google form. Fill out the attendance, your name, and then your institution or your address, and then if you can give reactions, feedback, suggestions to the lecturer. You can also give your feedback. It's okay.
Silakan ditanyakan kalau ada yang ingin ditanyakan tentang root morfologi atau morfologi akar. Ini sangat terkait dengan jurusan biologi. Nah, kalau ada yang ingin ditanyakan, boleh dalam bahasa Indonesia atau bahasa Inggris, bisa di dalam chat box-nya atau open mic. Nanti kami bantu untuk ditranslate. Kemudian jangan dilupakan untuk mengisi absensinya atau attendance list-nya yang sudah di-post di chat box. Jadi nanti ada 2 attendance list, satu dari Filipina, satu dari UMPAR. Ya, silakan yang ingin bertanya. Ada yang ingin ditanyakan? Yeah, we have one question on chat box.
Mabeni, you have a question in the chat box.
Okay, the question here is the difference between parasitic roots or not even though they appear to be or grow under the main plant, for example, the orchids. So according to the discussion that we have a while ago, it is under the epiphytic or the clinging roots, not under the parasitic roots, the orchids. Thank you, Sir Henny, for that question or clarification. Any more question, please?
Ya, jawabannya tadi sudah disampaikan. Maybe you can repeat it, ma'am, your answer,
Okay.
please, ma'am Benny.
So, the difference of why orchids is not parasitic because they do not what do you call this one, extract nutrients or moisture from the host plant, but from the air, the rain. So that's why it is termed as clinging roots or epiphytic roots, not parasitic roots, because parasitic roots it's really getting the nutrients from the host plant. So to the extent that it will kill the host plant if the nutrients and or the moisture within the host plant is absorbed by those parasitic. So orchids is not a parasitic group.
Oke, thank you, ma'am. Jadi Ibu Haji Hemika tadi sudah dijelaskan dan para partisipan yang lain juga sama-sama mendengarkan bahwa orchid itu atau orchid tidak termasuk ke dalam parasit atau akar parasit karena tidak mengambil nutrisi dari tanaman yang ditempatinya bertumbuh, tapi diambil dari udara dan air di sekitarnya. Masih ada pertanyaan? Silakan. Ya, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ayo adik-adik yang lain, mungkin masih ada yang ingin ditanyakan tentang morfologi akar ini, silakan ditanyakan. Kalau ada yang kurang jelas atau ada yang ingin dipertanyakan yang mungkin belum didapatkan di dalam kelas sebelumnya, silakan ditanyakan di kelas ini. Kita ada narasumber dari Benguet State University, Philippines, Ibu Benilin. Silakan dimanfaatkan kesempatannya. Ada lagi?
Do we have any more questions or clarifications? I can share the presentation later on in the chat box. Ma'am Chess?
I think we have no more questions, ma'am.
All right. There are no more questions. I think the lecture is over. That's for now. We will have another lecture this afternoon, but I think it will be with another group. Yes,
Yes.
English education this
Yes, we are
afternoon.
going
Yes.
to move to the English education group after do prayer, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, so from the Benguet State University, thank you so much for listening, and thank you for the invitation to give a lecture such as this ones to our colleagues and communities in Universitas Muhammadiyah Parepare, Indonesia. And to Ma'am Benilin, all the way from Bugis campus, thank you. So perhaps this ends the virtual lecture. Another set of lecture will be on Wednesday. I believe it will be with the same group, but there will be another lecturer to come for the lecture.
All right, ma'am.
All right.
Can we have
Please make sure
photo
that you have,
documentation, Ma'am Chess?
yes, please fill up the attendance also, the attendance sheet.
Ma'am Chess, can we have photo ops with the
Oh, yes,
participants?
please. Yes, let's have the photo ops. Ma'am Benilin, you can have your screenshot over there.
Silakan di open kameranya, kita mau dokumentasi kegiatan. Please open your camera.
Okay.
Wait a minute, ma'am.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Wait for another round. Okay, one last time. 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Terima kasih. Terima kasih.
Thank you, ma'am Esnara.
Thank you.
Ma'am Benilin.
Sama-sama. Sige, Ma'am Benilin, terima kasih. Sama-sama. Till next meeting.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you.
ma'am.
God bless.
Terima kasih Bu Haji sudah ikut. Terima kasih semuanya. Insya Allah pekan depan lagi, Di.
Iya, Bu.
Ya.
Insya